just let it happen as it happens.
Hmm.
And don't try to force, don't try to cook a steak to perfect temperature before you've learned how to microwave a hot dog.
You
You
gotta
know?
master the microwave first.
Yeah. And
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. With Rudy Tibersi.
What's up, everybody? Rudy here, and I am feeling good. Oh my gosh, it has been an amazing week or two. A lot of things have happened in my life I'm super excited about, including finally getting a JOOBB in the fitness industry. Oh my gosh, at the YMC, mother flippin' A. Oh, feels so good. Feels so good. Hi, Bubba. My kitty likes when I talk in excited terms, doesn't she? She likes those excited tones. What do you got to say, girl? You got any words of advice? When I was singing earlier, she was in here singing with me. It was pretty cute. Yeah, she has an interesting response when I get like animated. She'll like show up and be like, "Pop just stopped my intro, you little jerkus. Look at this girl, she's such a jerkus. You're not even saying anything, you cutie patootie, you dang-a-lang, you biggest dangstress I know. Don't. What are you doing? You're stepping on all my jazz." Oh my gosh, yes, thank you. Thank you for this. You're very good at helping with the intros. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You know how to podcast? Does Bubba want a podcast? Yes, she does. And I'm so thankful for that little weirdo. She's been so sweet lately. My girl's been so sweet. Thank you, Frostner. I love you. And so, where was I? Yeah, Ben Kronberg's my guest today. Ben was such a good guest. He was such a wonderful a friend to have on the podcast. Ben, I had in Korea a few times. We catch up a little, go over some of that, our history. That's part of the fun for me in these episodes, these interviews, these conversations with people in comedy is the connection we have and how we met. And usually it's got a pretty fun story attached. And Ben, we met in Korea, which is pretty cool, and we chat about some of our experiences together over there. So I'm excited about that. We brought him over and did comedy. It was awesome. So yeah, and just listening to him today when I was editing the podcast and whatnot, it was so calming. Ben is such a calming figure. I really appreciate that about him, and so I really liked listening to him, and the word choice that he has and just how he speaks and the analogies he uses are really cool. And he's got some really cool ideas and suggestions or whatnot that might be helpful for other comedians as they're on their journey. He produces a lot of cool... Anyways, I don't need to talk more about Ben. We talk about it in the podcast. I'm just saying I had a good time. I hope you have a good time. And you know what? You can do that because of my very famous fake sponsor this week. Rudy's fake sponsor this week is Tony's Tomatoes. If you want tomatoes, then you want Tony's. Tony's Tomatoes. They're tomatoes, and they're Tony's. So if you want Tony's Tomatoes, don't forget, you can put in the code Tony has done it again, and you'll get all the tomatoes delivered to your doorstep, just like Harry Potter flying through your chimney, zipping in your mail chute, and I know you want a tomato up there. So don't forget, Tony has tomatoes, and so do you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for checking in on the pod. You're a doll. Ben is a gem. You're in for a treat. Thanks for everything. Without further ado, here's my conversation with the one and only Ben Kronberg. Right on. Well, I am super duper stoked to be here today. I got my good friend Ben Kronberg here. We've been friends for almost a decade. I was thinking about this. It's been a little while, so I'm super stoked that he wanted to be on the pod. He visited a few times in Korea, did some comedy together there. We did some laundry together there. You've probably seen him around the TVs or the Colorados or the New York Cities of the world. Everyone put your hands together for the one and only Ben Kronberg, yay, yay,
Yep.
woohoo, yay. Yeah, get the water applause, baby. Oh, it's Ben, Biggity Benjamin. Now, is it true that your name is actually Benjamin K. Roenberg?
That's one of that's one of them. Yeah, K.
That's
Roenberg.
K. Roenberg. Nice. Oh
Yeah, I
man,
like that.
it's so good to see you, Ben. How are a thing? How are things? Several things? One thing? How are they
Very
going?
nice to see you. Yeah, things are things are
Oh
things and
no,
stuff
we
is
immediately
stuff.
just stopped.
Uh-oh, it's okay.
It's okay. We're back.
It's fine.
I wanted to hear you speak. Oh, okay, you're back.
Now
Nice.
I'm back. Okay.
You're back. Ben, how's Ben? How is Ben?
Ben is good.
Yeah.
Ben is yeah, I just turned 47 a couple weeks ago.
Oh, exciting.
Not it's not a milestone age, but certainly um, envisioning my future self from my past positions. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really have any conception of
Right.
where I would be right now.
Yeah.
That's not to say I've always lived in the present moment, but I think I've never been too future minded.
Okay, you're very present
You're
oriented.
frozen.
I'm frozen.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, no, you just froze up for a second.
All right. Well, it might be one of those. It might be one of those today, Ben. Well,
It's fine.
as a present oriented person, uh has life thrown you curveballs that when you've ended up in places you're like, "Oh, this is surprising. This isn't what I was expecting."
I mean, kind of all of it, really.
Yeah.
Aside from, I mean, even the things that I had intentionally done, embarked on, like say going to college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, even that, like I went to film school and
Oh.
didn't know what I was getting into with that because I was thinking I'm going to film school,
Yeah.
which is what I did, but it was a very specific niche type of film school at CU Boulder that focused on experimental film and non-narrative based
Oh.
film more than like making movies that you would probably see in a movie
Mm-hmm.
theater or whatever. It was more like um, not even art house films, but like art gallery, like art movement type of extensions that then I really got into like experimental and avant-garde film. And so even the things that I was like thought I knew what I was getting into sort of unfolded in a different, surprising, good way. And I would, it wasn't like it was a good curveball.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't know. I didn't know that. Are you? And I can see that kind of has come out in your comedy. I've seen you
Mm.
perform a lot of times, many times, and it's never the same. And you're always taking swings, and you're always doing stuff that I've never really necessarily seen other people doing. So it's always such a kind of treat to see you in person, to see you perform live, and that makes me so excited. You mentioned movies, avant-garde kind of stuff. Do you watch movies now? Are you like a film guy?
I love movies. I mean, I love all kinds of movies. I love action movies. They're probably when I was growing up, those were the ones that kind of got me excited, or maybe because
Uh-huh.
of the escapism of those particular types of movies were, it took me out of my world, which was nice and gave me experiences that I'd never had, obviously, or would probably never have. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like a gun guy.
Yeah.
I've never shot a gun, but I've seen a lot of movies with guns. Like
Uh-huh.
or
Yeah.
you know.
And it's kind of fun, right? I had never shot a gun until I went to Korea.
Oh,
And they have shooting ranges like in the middle of the city. It's just like you here, it's on the fourth floor. Go up, let's shoot some stuff. And they would have a catalog that you would open up with pictures of the guns and the movies and characters that used that gun.
oh, that's the
It
coolest.
was very cool. I used whatever the Joker used. This was like 10 years ago before Joker even came out, but I used like Heath Ledger's Joker gun or whatever. And I was like, this makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I'm not like a gun guy either, but it was just like there's something about holding or that like I guess it's not vicarious when you actually are holding a gun, but it's
Yeah.
vicarious when you're shooting a paper whatever object.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. You're in Colorado now, yeah?
Yeah. I'm in Denver. Been here since probably like I guess been back here, moved back here from New York like probably like 2017,
Mm-hmm.
2018.
Yeah. How was that change for you moving from the big New York scene
You
back
froze up
to
again a little bit.
oh, sad face. Let's see. Am I doing anything wrong? Are you in the mountains? Are you like deep in the hills?
Oh no. I mean, I have a pretty solid internet connection. I do. I mean, I know because I do therapy on Zoom, so I use it quite a bit for that. But it's
I
yeah,
love the Zoom therapy. I've been on Zoom therapy since the pandemic and I've never looked back.
yeah.
Did you ever have the in-person stuff before that?
No, it started like that. I have in person options now, but I kind of prefer the um this just to be in the comfort and space of my own place. I like that.
Right. No, yeah. I like that. I like my cat walking up. I like hanging out. It's it I don't know if it makes it less like important. I don't feel like it feels less important. How do you feel about like the idea like doing therapy in the same place you like watch TV or make dinner or whatever?
Yeah, well, I usually do it in the space that I'm doing right now, which is my bedroom, but the one of the walls, just for the lighting purposes. But yeah, I don't. I like it. I don't think it's um I don't know because it's like now and then sometimes my therapist is in their home or office depending on what day of the week it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's an interesting kind of intimacy about it uh, that like if just two people were in an office together, it's like kind of an impartial space, which is fine and good and has qualities, but I think is like right now you're sharing me your kitchen. I imagine that's your kitchen, or it's a delicious ready for food bedroom. I don't know what it is that I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
yeah, I've laid down on the kitchen ground in here. It's where my cats eat. It's where I eat.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've curled up by the fridge once or twice.
yeah. The hum.
Yeah, is there a hum? Do you hear the hum?
No, I'm just
No.
saying. In general, the fridge has like its own like hum. It's
Oh yeah,
beautiful.
it's kind of nice. I like those white noise. I need the white noise. Are you someone who gets annoyed by like these sounds that are there?
Um, No, I mean maybe if I was like hyper, like maybe overly caffeinated or overly stimulated, those and focusing in on those things might bother me somewhat. But in general, no, I like them a lot because they're all
Hmm.
around. You can't escape them.
They're everywhere. They are ubiquitous. I think that's the meaning of ubiquitous, right? It's just
Yeah,
they're everywhere. They're all over
yeah.
the place.
I mean, even in silence, the ringing of my ears from listening to music too loud, or perhaps going to a live show the night before, has its own. If you can't get out of it, get into it.
Yeah, you kind of just either got to go crazy or figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you worked out today. You're drinking water, you don't want to be overly caffeinated. What was your gym today? What has that been lately for you?
Well, I'm sporadic with it, but I've I would say the past 3 weeks, I've been pretty solid with my routine.
Mm,
I am lucky enough to have a gym in my. I live in an apartment building that has
mm.
its own gym, so that's
Oh, that's
that's really
huge.
nice. That was one of the perks, and I was like, oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
it has enough stuff. It's got free weights, kettlebells, cable machine, Smith machine,
Mm. It's awesome.
recumbent bike, some ellipticals, and treadmills. I pretty much stick to the recumbent exercise bike,
Mm-hmm.
um, and usually start out with that. Do about a half hour, on the fat burner setting, because I like the intention of a fat burning setting on a thing. However true to the fat burning heart rate thing that it is, it's just nice to be like, like you take vitamins and then you Google like what these vitamins do for you, so you can kind of get the,
it's like, I want to feel like they're doing something.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like that mode. And then,
is it like an interval, the fat burning, is it like an interval style training?
Yeah, it kind of goes up and down, and then it ramps up, and then it goes down a little bit, and then it ramps up. And because I only do a half hour of this hour program, I usually just get one main ramp up, and then I try to, at the end of it, maybe increase the resistance and do my last minute as hard as I can.
Right.
So I finish it off as like so I feel okay, I've done that, even if the whole session of that doesn't get me like going. That last part, I can always like,
kind of
that last,
make it for your own taste, flavor it up for yourself. So does that leave you energy to do other stuff after that?
It does. So I'll usually do some just full body things after that. A lot of body weight push-ups, but like on a bench where the softness is, because I'm not, the ground push-ups are kind of tough for me and my wrists as I am.
Same.
I
love a bench push-up. Push-up. Like you can move your...
Yeah, you can do it. I can plank on it. I can do some like knee things with it. I like those, but I'd actually been the one kind of other full body workout that I follow. I don't know if you know Carl Hess.
I think
he's an LA dude, LA comic, really funny, cool. He's a big foodie. He loves to post pictures of food and stuff, but he's really into exercising, and he stayed with me a couple times, and he showed me this 7-minute workout that the New York Times had posted one time.
Oh,
and it's a really cool, I'll send you it. It's like a really cool, you're supposed to be able to get it done in 7 minutes, or you can cycle it once or twice or 3 times if you've like kind of mastered it, or it's not challenging enough.
Right.
But, like it's like jumping jacks, wall sit, plank, and then crunches. And then it's like, high step jogging, and then something, it's like leg focused, and then it gets into the core, and then back and stuff like that. And it's a really good one to just kind of get a full body, do it quick, because you're supposed to like, do everything for like 30 seconds and then have like minimal rest in between.
For sure. I love that kind of stuff. Those kind of like full body, quick workouts. I think that's perfect for comedians too, because we're not trying to go all out in the gym all the time typically. Like, because I don't know about you, I burn myself out at the gym. Like if I got nothing else to do, I'll just keep going. Is the gym a thing for you that you have? Is it like, so are these workouts something that you have to like work yourself up to, or you're like, okay, I'm glad I get to do this? Like, how do you approach it?
Well, I mean, I have to do it early. I have to do it kind of first thing. Because if I give myself too much time to complete a task, or like I'll say I'll do that later, I don't do that. So I wake up, and then I sweep up all the crumbs from the night before. Do the dishes that are in the sink from the night before, so I can get focused on like tasks, and then I go work out when I do.
Nice. Go for it.
And while I'm doing it, I'm definitely grateful that I have the space and place to do it, and just the accessibility. No matter what the weather is, I can just pop downstairs to the 4th floor and take care of business.
That's so nice to have something like that you can do whatever you kind of feel is necessary at your home, because I think that's one of the biggest barriers for so many people. It's like, oh, I got to go to the gym, I got to change, I got to blah blah blah. And how was the pandemic for you? What were you doing during the pandemic? Were you moving and grooving? Were you out? What was it like for you?
I mean, I definitely got a lot of walking in, and I still walking is one of my main forms of exercise as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of that during the pandemic, and um, this week, these past 2 weeks, I've been getting in some really good, impressive steps that
Mm.
I'll share with you.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, today I've already done 1,100 steps.
Heck yeah.
Yesterday I got my 10 in, my 10,000. Day before 17,000. The day before that 24,000,
Wow, you're
which
a
is
man
pretty
about
good.
town.
Yeah, so I've had some like 20K step days, and then pairing that with exercising, I think it's, if I can keep up those things, it really helps out with just,
Overall, everything.
yeah.
Walking is huge. Walking is like one of the best things that I try to do every day. I tried to get outside a little bit today. Took I took my dad to get his car a hitch on his car today, so that was like my morning. It felt like a very productive, helpful
Oh,
morning.
that's a great father-son activity. That's like quintessential.
Right? Yeah, no, it felt really good. He's gone through some loss lately, and so
Mm.
I'm happy when he reaches out and asks for stuff like that. It's like, "Oh yeah, I can drive you to Springfield. Let's go get the hitch on your Chevy," that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So, saw his cat, hung out with him and that kind of thing. So I didn't get those. I try to get steps in every morning, but I'm like, oh, I'll hang out with my dad instead.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's nice.
I stopped doing the steps because I stopped paying attention to the steps because I love walking around, moving around. I think it's super important. But sometimes I was too caught up on that number.
Yeah.
I get too fixated on like, oh, I got to do 10K, I got to do whatever. Or it's like, if I get to 6,000 or whatever, I'm like, I blew it today.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. Like, I don't weigh myself. I haven't weighed myself in a long time.
Nice. I
Um,
love that.
I don't have any standards or expectations when I go to the gym. I think the specific ones, anyways, other than just showing up and whatever happens happens. But the
Mm-hmm.
steps is nice to reflect on, because it's like, if I don't do a lot, I can kind of, apply that mild shame to my next walking choices. But if I've, like, sometimes when I look at that, I'm like, oh, I did that many today. Wow. So it's kind of some like reward, or like just reflection of like, oh, look at how many, I don't know, like the idea of completing a book. I don't know.
Mm.
I haven't really done that much lately, but
Yeah, the ability I have to open a book is far greater than I have
yeah,
to finish a book.
yeah,
It's kind of I'm like, what are all these half books are just laying around? What am I doing? This is
uh-huh.
pathetic.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now? Do you have any books?
Um, I do have books, again, mostly cracked into and half read of that. A lot of self-help
Yeah,
books,
me
via
too.
therapist recommendations, or
Mm-hmm.
books on Zen, things like that. Alan Watts has
You
a
kind of
really good book of Zen.
Oh, you kind of got an Alan Watts thing going on. You look not unlike an Alan Watts, book flap.
Yeah, yeah. I am a bookmark to my own Alan Watts life book.
What was it on? Are you a fan of the movie Her?
Oh yeah, for sure, for
Her
sure.
is for sure. It's one of my favorites of all time. I love her so much. And isn't one of the consciousnesses that she like connects with or like falls in love with Alan Watts? She's like, I'm interacting with an Alan Watts facsimile or something like that.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, so, and my detail retention can waver from film to film.
The same
Um,
Z's.
but I want to check out that movie again. But that adds up. That would
Yeah.
be.
It's like, how are you gonna compete with Alan Watts? How are you gonna compete with the collected works of Alan Watts in an algorithm form?
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly.
oh no, that guy's got a few things that I don't, even if
Yeah.
a body isn't one of them.
Yeah.
Uh, so, you're I don't even know about the genesis of your comedy journey, actually. So you started in you went to school for film. Was that the goal? Was that you're like, I'm going to be a weird filmmaker who makes movies with mud and worms and pictures of the ocean? Like, or what happened? How did comedy come into play?
Well, I didn't like I was never I didn't have the free will per se of college. It was kind of expected, not um, overly pushed or talked about, but there's certainly this thing of like, oh, maybe it was societal, partly parental, but like it was like, oh, you graduate high school, you go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just kind of in a compliance mode at that point in my life of like not wanting to disrupt or disappoint people.
Mm,
And I still have a lot of those people pleasing uh, things that happen in my life, I guess. But, glad that I went, but also have this retrospect being like, kind of wish I had just kind of traveled or done like what you did, going to, not that you hadn't gone to college when you went to teach English in Korea, because I think you had to have like a degree or something, or that helped out with the stuff.
yeah, that's what everybody
Um,
had.
yeah. But like, I wish I would have been able to like explore more and use the energetic youth factor to discover things,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I think some of that was muted in my college experience because it was just the bureaucracy of education and all the expectations around it. Even the things that sparked my curiosity or imagination were throttled by the confines of the having to do it.
Of
Like
course.
I always envied the people who got the older people who weren't getting a degree, but they were auditing the same course that I was taking, and they were in the film class, but for free or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that gave me, once I was graduated college, I kind of wanted to just shake it all off. And like, so I started working at bars and doing other
Mm.
things just to kind of be social. Um, and then this first bar that I worked at, in Denver in Capitol Hill neighborhood called the Park Tavern. They had an open mic there. That was a
Mm-hmm.
music open mic. And my last semester of college, my mom had bought me a guitar and I'd started making up stupid, silly, maybe funny songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gave me a context, a place to, and an opportunity to try those songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like my first time performing, was probably like 2000, 2001, 2002 at this open mic. And then somebody had seen me go up a couple times, been like, oh, you should try one of those songs at the Comedy Works New Talent Night. And
Mm.
so then I just used that as like oh, I didn't know that existed. And then I investigated, and then I subsequently um, did it. And then that was kind of how it started, was just like from the thing to the thing to the thing, and then like stumbling upon it.
Right. And so did that get you hooked? Were you like in from the start, or was it a slow burn? How did it spark for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a thing that like it felt empowering, just being able to perform and or see my creativity to fruition in that space. I was able to, um, I don't know, find some sort of, not necessarily self worth, but yeah, some sort of like empowered value of self that, um, I don't know, that like it was like nobody, I decided it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Society or my parents weren't like harping on me or expecting me to do anything with my creativity or things. It was just out of pure enjoyment that I was
Mm.
able to do it. And then yeah, just feeling the whatever dopamine or thing of performing, whether
Right.
doing good or bad. It was just like, oh wow, that I've never experienced this before. So then it became somewhat like a drug, like maybe working out can be, or
For sure.
anything that you're into.
For sure. You mentioned good or bad. Are you able to embrace the bomb? Have you ever been able to do that? Have you ever been able, because you were one of the most polarizing acts we ever brought to Korea. Some people were like, oh my God, Ben Kronberg, can't get enough of the guy. Loved him so much. And other people were like, I'm not so sure about that guy.
Uh-huh.
And I always really admire that in a comedian. And I love your comedy. And that's just the nature of taking risks when you're on stage. How have you historically approached that? Or is it just kind of like, it doesn't phase you, or you go through thick and thin, through a great set, through a not great set? Does it ding you? Does it kind of put a nick in your arm or anything?
Um, I think, well, the repetition of it lended itself to, experiencing the dynamic nature of performing, which is the sometimes doing bad, sometimes doing great, sometimes doing okay, and trying to average that in your mind or in your ego, for sure. The humility
Mm-hmm.
of those moments. Yeah, and I think I found that, like, those moments where maybe I was polarizing, or I was trying to do edgier, button pushy type of things on stage, that I was able to, like, get things, like, um, get something out of any reaction, like be
Mm-hmm.
able to extract something for myself from any reaction,
Yeah.
and somehow process it as that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like this thing of, like, I was lucky enough to be able to experience that dynamic well before I started intentionally trying to do comedy professionally.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like many comedians nowadays are jumping into comedy from being hyper podcasty fan
Mm-hmm.
comedy connoisseur to, like, then, like, I want to do comedy, and then, like, they're already trying to, like, make a career out of it, just out of their first steps. And I was lucky enough to be at a time before social media and all the podcast stuff to be just like, do it.
Yeah.
I didn't have any expectations when I was doing it, so I wasn't, anything that happened didn't feel dire, or any success that I had didn't feel like, yeah, I'm on the right track. It just felt kind of like, oh, I'm a skateboarder, and I like to skateboard, and sometimes I fall down and I bruise myself, and sometimes I land a trick, but either way I get to hang out with my friends and fuck around, and
Mm-hmm.
that just being in that space was really liberating.
Do you feel like you're able to inhabit that space these days? Is that where you're at with comedy? What's your relationship with it like these days?
I don't perform much anymore. Like, I'd say when we saw each other at the Savage Henry Comedy Festival not too long ago,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the last times that I actually performed, that I've performed. And I
Mm.
lately, probably the past couple years, maybe the last year, but yeah, I don't perform at the lounge, the Denver Comedy Lounge, that I you know um, run and
Curate?
book and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
curate. And, um, I don't perform much. I don't. I like, maybe 2 years ago, I did, like, the New Year's Eve show, just so I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have to pay a headliner to do a New Year's Eve show. It was a money saving
You're like,
venture,
I know,
but
I know a guy who will perform for a discount.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, so I've been enjoying being on this other side, where I can now just watch comedy, watch the shows that happen, enjoy it, and then as far as creatively, I can, you know, I think be an ally to the people that are performing, you know, on the stage that I book. To
Mm.
be like, I get to listen to them like 5 times over the weekend, and so I can get very familiar with their set or their style. And then
Mm.
sometimes, not always, I can be like, depending on our relationship, I can, like, help them out with tags, or
Totally.
I like functioning in that way, because it's a skill set that I have that I'm not using for myself
Mm-hmm.
um, much. And yeah, I guess I've found any times I performed, even at that festival, I was feeling these anxieties that were very anxieties that I felt early on in comedy when I was trying to do it for real.
Mm-hmm.
And experiencing that, and all the other comedians' energies who were very excited to be there, and
Yeah.
that those things are very intense because I've experienced them a lot. So like I was like, found myself just like, okay, really, I don't know. It was almost like a therapy in a way of like, all right, we're going to talk about your family growing up. We're going to talk about your origin story. And I
Mm-hmm.
very much feel that about open mics or festivals.
Yeah.
Is it really triggers my origins of taking comedy seriously and wanting something from it and trying to
Yeah.
make things happen and
Mm.
empathizing with it, but also being like, oh, I've um, not past that, but now that I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm like, oh man, I don't miss trying to get noticed or trying to
Yeah.
break out.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. You're not gripping it as tightly as you once did.
yeah,
And it seems like that feels good to you.
yeah,
Is that an accurate statement?
yeah.
W-
Sounds accurate.
Was there something that precipitated kind of this shift or this change, this adjustment in perspective and how you approach comedy? Um and was it conscious at all, or was it just kind of the natural progression of how things moved forward for you?
Yeah, I would say it's more of the natural progression because just like I stumbled upon the comedy thing, performing thing. I stumbled upon running a comedy lounge that I never thought that's what I was going to do. Like I had produced
Hmm.
shows when I was in New York, but that was to get stage time.
Yeah.
And even when I started doing the comedy lounge here in Denver, it was kind of more in that vein to like get stage time and have just a place that I could perform at. And then when I started, yeah, I think the more that I got into doing that, like I'm there every weekend, uh, for the most part, and I just experiencing it so much. I'm like, okay, you know how sometimes when you cook food all day long for like a holiday or something, you haven't really eaten much. You've maybe tasted some things. Maybe you've had a deviled egg here, or a piece
Hmm.
of some
Ham.
stuffing, yeah, ham there. But then you've just been cooking so much that you're not hungry
Mm-hmm.
in a
Totally.
way.
Yeah.
And I think it's somewhat like that. It's just like I'm cooking so often that my need to eat isn't, you know, I
Isn't as
get,
great.
yeah,
You get it through the sniffs. You get comedy
yeah,
through the smells.
yeah, exactly. The smells and the sounds, the sizzles and the things
The
like that. And yeah,
Yeah, there is that element of when you produce a show that you're feeling pretty much everything that everyone is feeling in a way. You're like, I am an audience member, I am a performer, I am a host, I am an opener, I'm a feature.
yeah,
I'm the floor cleaner, I'm the ticket guy, I'm the
yeah,
back of the house, I'm the lighting, I'm
yeah.
sound. And so
Uh-huh.
like when something goes off without a hitch or just with expected hitches or whatever, that's really rewarding.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
don't have to put the same pressure on yourself in a way.
yeah. Yeah, it's distributed. I think my things it's distributed now with different tasks and like if I were to also want to perform or if I were to perform, I would all these other tasks and responsibilities that I have would get diluted and or neglected because
Mm.
of the engaged ego that would be like me thinking about what I'm about to say on stage or getting mentally prepared to go on stage, and then after you get off stage the processing and reflection that happens with how did I just do,
Hmm.
you know and then
Hmm.
that keeps me from being present. So I think the thing that keeps me present in doing the thing that I'm doing now is ironically the thing that led to this, but the
Hmm.
thing that I can't do if I want to stay present with all these other things.
Right. Yeah. So going to the comedy festival, Savage Henry Comedy Festival, and you did get to perform and, close a night down or a weekend down, that kind of thing. How was shifting back into the performer's mindset? How did that go for you?
Um, it was good and fine. There was certainly some, like, I had like a little bit of anxiety pop up because I hadn't performed much. I hadn't, kept as in tone with
Mm-hmm.
that. But like one of the shows, I think the first show that I did, I felt really good about, and then the last show that I did, that was maybe later on in the night. It's like an 11 p.m. show. The first show was like a sweet spot, like
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, or 8 o'clock show. That I was still fresh from the day.
Yeah. The fest, not
Um,
everyone's a mess yet.
yeah, and so I got to experience those things, and then I did this other like wine oyster bar show that like nobody was
Yeah.
at the festival, so I got
That's
to
the
experience like the good show, the show that was good, but also like whatever, and then this other thing. And um yeah, I mean, I've experienced those experiences so many times that uh I think I can adapt and get into them quickly,
uh-huh.
but I just have a different perspective going into them. Like I don't have the excited anticipatory thing that I used to really be able to take from,
Mm-hmm.
like the 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 kid the night before Christmas realizing tomorrow is Christmas morning,
Yeah.
and just having that of, but like with performing, like I have a show tonight, I have a show tomorrow,
Right.
I have a gig this weekend. Like
Woo!
I don't have I don't have that anymore,
Yeah. And you're
or wherever it is, it's lying dormant or something.
yeah, it's probably flapping around somewhere in you, a little bit here and there, and that's you're still around comedy all the time, which is
Yeah,
yeah, it's still fun to be around. Yeah, and I'm trying to hold it a little more with a little more, less intensity because I want it to be fun. And sometimes
yeah,
it just gets to a place where you're like, "Oh, I need to be doing this or I ought to be doing this." And when you get to that place, especially if like external rewards are few and far between, it doesn't fill your comedy with joy as
yeah.
much. And so it's fun to kind of like just adjust how I approach it, how I look at it, how I see things. Do you think that comes just from age and experience and like years in the game? Maybe a desire to sleep a little more?
I think I think it's that. I yeah, there's the longevity within the life of a performer, comedian, musician, whatever. um I think has different mixes to it.
Hmm.
um yeah, my perspective certainly, I think is informed by like how long I've been doing it, and my age correlating. um but I remember starting out with some comedians who were some of the funniest people that I was like, oh, this they're gonna go on and do stuff. And then some of those people who are really funny starting out, they like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna go work this job. I'm not gonna do this anymore. Or they would
Hmm.
give themselves like, if I'm not making money doing comedy within 5 years, I'm gonna quit. Like they
Yeah.
already put their whatever you call that.
Just parameters, barriers,
Yeah,
expectations in place.
yeah, and so then, because maybe they were coming from a place or life that like was more goal oriented and expectation laden, where I'd never had those things getting into it. So I think that played into my longevity for being able to do it for so long, and just
Hmm.
explore and see where it goes now,
Hmm.
um and grateful for all those things. And because had I given myself like a, you know if I don't do this by this at this time, then I'm gonna stop.
Hmm.
you know
The
um
it's kind of icky to hold on to that branch. It feels
mhm.
thorny and weird if you're like, oh, 5 years is coming up pretty fast now.
Uh-huh.
It's like I'm not
Yeah,
making what I thought I was gonna make. So
yeah,
I guess that's the
yeah,
gift of
exactly.
being present. So like moving forward and things having shifted, how has that shifted your goals, or are you a goals guy? Do you have something that you're working towards, either like creatively? Because you made a uh, when you came to Korea, one of the times you had just made a musical album. There was
Oh, that
there
one,
was a
yeah.
music album that you made, and you were always on your phone, like making stuff. You performed some music stuff, or so yeah. Do you have any other goals you're kind of keeping in mind moving forward?
Um, goals. Yeah, I don't. I think if I have goals, I don't call them goals.
Uh huh.
Just so I can like fool myself. Make the vitamins into Flintstone shapes or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
uh,
These are not goals.
yeah, these aren't vitamins. These are
These are,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah, these are
these are
just
funs.
things. Yeah, kind of sweet or kind of tangy.
Happy walkabouts.
Yeah, I mean, with that, the music stuff is kind of what I enjoy doing creatively. So I do music stuff and I perform it mostly just like music open mics here in
Mm-hmm.
town, as well as just like by myself. I do that, but I don't have any goals for that. Like, but I play with people that are good musicians, and I kind of get to do my phone thing and sing and make some bleeps and blips with like synthesizer apps and stuff, and just that is like sustainable. And I guess my goal is looking for sustainability within any of the activities that I either do to enjoy or um, do for health or for prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just trying to figure out the best way to make those sustainable. Yeah, because I don't know where any of it's going or any of it's going to lead. Like I don't have like an end game.
Right.
Um, right now a goal I guess would be um, for like when I'm booking out of town headliners, and you guys are really great with all the full spectrum of hospitality and things that you provided when I came and other people came to Korea, was like to be able to do like the flight and putting people up and paying people and giving them the trifecta of like being taken care of. And I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciated that
Good.
when y'all did that. And I'm not at the place right now where I can like pay for headliners' flights. I
Mm-hmm.
get, I do like guarantees
Yeah.
and put them up in a hotel and that type of thing. But that's certainly a goal, is to be able to get to the level of taking care of everything. But with like flights, what they are right now, sometimes it's really cheap, sometimes it's not, and like
Right.
buying a flight for somebody for them to not show up because of some reason or not
Been
making
there.
it,
Yeah.
it's like it's extra stress,
It totally is. It takes the wind out of your sails. And I'm glad that you appreciated that, because that was something we worked really hard to do, was to make our guests, feel like part of the crew and like comfortable. It's like you're traveling 20 hours or more in some cases to like come do a weird weekend of shows in a country
yeah,
you've probably never been to.
yeah, in places
And
you've definitely never heard of.
yeah, exactly. It's like all these syllables just smashed together that you're like, I would never have put that there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so it's just fun to be able to play that role of like guide and hospitality, you know,
Yeah,
whatever, and make people feel like they wanted to come. You were
yeah,
there you wanted to come several times.
yeah,
And it was a blast. I'm so happy when we had repeat visitors, because that was the whole point. Like the whole point of comedy, as far as we were concerned, and as far as Jeff and I and everybody else there, Rob and Albert and all the crew, knew, was just to have fun with your buddies.
yeah,
And so it was really nice to be able to do that type of work, the very same work you're doing right now, but with a crew of people who had like a common goal in mind, and none of us were making money and that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that I mean, that's where how has it been able to make so many wonderful relationships in comedy.
yeah,
And so like having that still be having those relationships still be alive is super important, and it almost makes that time feel more real, because you know how it is. It's like, how long did you live in New York? 10 years, 5 years? and you think about it, and it's gone like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Uh,
crazy.
How was your move? So that was probably a big move, moving out of New York back to Colorado. How did that process feel for you, or what were some of the challenges associated with it?
Well, yeah, I didn't think I was uh moving back to Denver. It was more of a I was living with uh my girlfriend at the time, and we broke up. She broke up with me, but that's fine. It's
It happens.
water
I
under the water under the bridge. Yeah, I thought I was just coming back to Denver to kind of like re, just get my ducks in a row and then
mm,
go back to New York. But once I came back to kind of escape my woes and things there, it was just kind of it was more easygoing here, and that the intensity I think that built up in New York and all these things that I was like at one point energetically able to keep up with and like participate in had kind of dwindled or gotten more difficult. And then I came back and I was
mm,
like, okay, I'm familiar with this space. I can navigate this space. I'm, friends and family are kind of helping me out right now. And so I just kind of stuck around longer than I thought. And then the pandemic happened. And then it was like, okay, I'm probably not going back to New York ever again, or who knows what's going to happen with what's happening right now.
mm-hmm.
And then that made me grateful because there's all these people in like New York that were like not stuck during the pandemic, but those situations I think could have been very difficult under that pressured
Yeah,
environment,
yeah. A lot of
so I felt grateful.
Yeah, a lot of us who kind of got back to our hometowns or whatever, like that's a lucky move. Like it's
Yeah.
nice to be able to have some of that security. And it's not even secure. It's like moving back to your home or hometown is a
Yep.
super fraught task,
Yeah.
And so I have to deal with all those questions regularly. So, being in your hometown, do you ever see anybody from like high school or stuff like that out and about?
Not really, because I mean, I went to I was raised and went to high school more in like the suburbs, and I live
Mm,
in the city, so I do occasionally run into some people from the past, not necessarily high school people, but people I worked with at like chain Italian restaurants, and
yeah.
um, other people from when I started performing at that bar and stuff, and there's still a lot of people that have like stayed here that had moved away, came back, like the Grawlix dudes,
Mm-hmm.
that Adam and
Love the guys.
Ben and Andrew, like they moved away, but now they're back, and it's cool because there's this now robust. Because of that, there's this kind of robust scene that from where the comedy scene started here to where it is now, it's like beautiful to be able to see and to be able to take it in. Because back when I started here, there was like it was comedy works and maybe one or two open mics and then random shows,
Yeah.
but not much. And now it's sort of like you know open mics or multiple open mics each night, multiple weekend spots to do in addition to the main clubs, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's really grow independent monthly shows. And
Yeah.
um so yeah, I don't know if that was a tangent or something.
I feel like of all the places that a comedian could move that's not New York or LA, if they're wanting to get better at comedy, it feels like Denver is as good a place as any.
Yeah, yeah, I would
It,
say that.
and a lot of that probably does have to do with the Grolics, right? Those
Yeah.
guys, Adam came to Korea as well, and so I'm
Yeah.
super fortunate to have some connections with some of the people in Denver that I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And my family, some families moving to Denver, so I might actually be making a couple moves more or visits here
Yeah.
and there. I'd love to spend some more time there. So,
Yeah, that'd be
uh,
great.
yeah, it'd be super cool.
You come stay with me.
Yeah, I'd love that. One of my favorite memories of you in Korea, you stayed with Jeff and I, Jeff Seabear Sinclair,
Yeah.
for a couple weeks, I think. And you, I was doing laundry, and you're like, "Oh, I got some things. Can I do some laundry?" I was like, "Yeah. Do you mind if your clothes are in there with mine, and you said something to the effect of, "I would love for our clothes to mix." Or something along and it was just so sincere and weird and great. And I was like, yeah, well, that's the house guest. And it
Yeah.
felt like, when the laundry was combining, so did little parts of our essences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's sweet that you remember that. Yeah, that time was really cool, really special. That's one of my most favorite things about comedy, that it's taken me to all these different places, or that
Mm-hmm.
it's allowed me to go to these places that I probably never would have or could have gone without the comedy key. Like
Yeah.
the show. Some of the shows were really fun and great, but it was about the hangs and about the hospitality and the just this experience, and being able to be there and not feel like just like totally overwhelmed by this foreign non-English speaking environment, and like having that be a stress, to being like, oh, I'm here with people that know the lay of the land, even though they don't know as much Korean as you thought they would, because they teach English to Koreans.
Mm-hmm.
It's like but it was still taking the trains and the buses and the karaoke train, and
Yeah.
and the
It's the
the bars
best.
that don't close until everybody's gone, and
Oh yeah,
um
they want liver problems in that country.
yeah. Yeah, hangover soup. What was that hangover soup called?
Oh yeah, Hey Jungkook, I think probably is the
Hey,
one.
yeah,
Hey
pig
Jungkook.
spine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. And you went
yeah,
to Pohang? Did we go to Pohang?
yeah. I went to Pohang a
Yeah.
couple. Yeah. I remember eating McDonald's there. The guy who owned that bar. What was that bar called?
Tilt.
Tilt. Yeah, yeah. And then like watching a Broncos game. I think it was like the second time around, when I don't know if it was the first time or second time, but he like went on his motorcycle and got us McDonald's, and we were watching like a Broncos game.
Yeah.
In the morning in
Oh, I love
Korea,
it.
like at this bar. It's like, what?
Yeah, and that makes people feel good. Like Andy, the owner of Tilt in Pohang is just a dear man, and he and Kanane went out on motorcycles. He wanted to have people feel a little less like they were in this crazy foreign place,
Yeah,
and more feel like they're at home somehow. And so, yeah,
yeah.
like the 9 a.m., at 6 a.m. Broncos game and McMuffins and stuff like that. It's like, oh, yeah, I forgot that sometimes, even if I don't love those things all the time or want them when I'm at home, they're weirdly nice when I'm not at home.
Yeah, yeah. The comfort of a weird, like was it like the first Taco Bell that ever existed there or something? It was like this real small Taco Bell,
In Itaewon.
Itaewon, yeah, and they had this like bulgogi burrito, or getting
Yeah,
like the bulgogi burger at it was like this mix of like comfort and strange, and
totally. Like, I
yeah,
love that stuff. I used to like poo poo on, oh my gosh, McDonald's in Japan, like, no way. But it's like, whenever I go to a new country, I kind of have to go to McDonald's now. Like, I'm like,
yeah,
what is the regional fare on the McDonald's menu that I got to check out?
yeah,
Uh, one of my greatest regrets was going to Rome and not getting the disco burger at McDonald's. I'm like, I don't even know what the disco burger is.
yeah.
I went to Trevi Fountain, but my biggest regret is not getting that stupid burger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's so cool. Yeah, there's a picture of you. You came with Baron Vaughn. Yeah, there's a picture. There's the
Yep.
poster here on my wall there too. So that was so cool. Um, so like you're kind of like adjusting. It feels like you're in this different phase of life for you right now, and uh, it might not be as heavily tethered to your skill or time as a performer as it once was. Um, but there's probably still there's a lot that you're still doing in comedy, and the way I kind of like to ask this question is like, okay, what would you tell your younger self getting into comedy? What do you wish you knew that you didn't know then? Or what would you give someone? What input would you give someone who is who is getting into comedy now, so either kind of way, what advice would you give your younger self, or what would you tell somebody who's like getting into comedy, or maybe even having a hard time with comedy? What kind of words do you wish you knew more?
Great. It's a great question. With telling my younger self, I don't know. I don't know that anything I would tell my younger self anything about comedy or what to expect or how to think or how to be, because of how I discovered it and developed with the time of you know that I was starting and developing. Like I value that so much that I wouldn't want any of that to change.
Hmm.
But in this current environment, um, you know, with the so many things of podcasts and Patreons and uh, just people's access to it. And again, it might just be like somebody from the past trying to give you advice on how to deal with the future. And so maybe that's what I'd be doing. But I think, I mean, a lot of the comedians that I see that are going these days have they put the cart before the horse, or, that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather just, say like, enjoy the moments. And again, if people aren't open to hearing it, like, you could tell somebody some good advice or whatever you think, but because they're in the mental space that they are, it's just going to be like in one ear out the other, or not even absorbed.
Yeah. It's hard.
And just let it happen as it happens. And don't try to force, don't try to cook a steak to perfect temperature before you've learned how to microwave a hot dog.
You gotta master the microwave first.
Yeah. And yeah, because I think there's a lot of that. There's also like, there's a kind of a roasting standard. Nowadays it's a very roast forward, roast heavy scene. There's a lot of roast shows, which, there was some beautiful, fun, playful novelty to those, but now I think that is kind of developing. It's developing. It's like when UFC first started, it was this super cool, all these different disciplines of martial arts. A wrestler, a guy with a gi, a samurai, a ninja.
Yeah, it's like Street Fighter.
Yeah, it was like a video game, and then it became this thing of like everybody has cauliflower ear. Everybody is a universal soldier.
Yeah,
like they're only distinguishable by their where tattoos are placed, or
right.
Those things. And
you're just describing Rogan fans now.
Well, exactly. Well, and I think there's a little bit of, it's like, oh, if you want to survive this comedy game, you're going to have to learn how to do crowd work for the camera. So you can get popular on TikTok. You're going to have to learn how to, roast battle, because that's the part of the octagon that we have. And like,
it's what gets people out.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of the playful discovery isn't as present. I see it. It exists, but it's like, there's all these other things that are drawing people, and then forcing them to adapt to these specific environments, which some people have found success in. But focusing on those things, I think keeps comedians from the joy of discovery and doing, which I think could, help play into their longevity or their long-term thing. But it's also like, it's the way things are now,
Totally.
like a like it or not sort of attitude is like, it's the way that it is.
This is where we're at.
Yeah.
So adjust or don't adjust. It's kind of your call, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny that playful sparring nature. I actually saw a Rogan clip, some MMA guy talking about how a lot of MMA fighters or Eastern European fighters have this sense of playfulness in the gym. They're like, most of the time you're not going all out. Most of the time you're not like going heavy and hard. You're just kind of sparring. You're working through the motions. You're moving around. You're with other people that are doing the same thing, but you're not going full bore because you know
Yeah.
this is not a full bore time. And I think that just was one of those aha moments, I guess, clicked for me because it's like, oh yeah, the same is true for comedy. The same is true for the gym. It's like, I can't be going all out all the time at comedy or at exercise because if I am, then there's just like so little left. There's not that space for me to like have energy for other pursuits. And the stuff isn't as fun when you're
Yeah.
just like so deep in it. There's something valuable about that and getting in those zones when you're like super into stuff. But then you got to know when to put the brakes on as well. And I'm working on the brakes these days. You know,
What are you breaking the most, or what's what are you fighting?
I'm trying to break at the gym. I'm trying to figure out how to use my energies more wisely to allow myself to have energy for the rest of the day, because right now, being unemployed, looking for work, this kind of stuff, it's like it would be easy to dive fully into the gym, because it's like I do get a high from the gym and I do get this excitement and feeling whenever I'm in there, kind of like I love being in here,
Yeah.
and it really makes me uh just like jazz, like I'm so stoked. So that's one thing I'm trying to put the brakes on. And like anxiety, I feel like anxiety is something that we create in our heads a lot, and whether that's around money or relationships or family or obligations, um as like, I don't know, as trite as it might sound, like trying to allow my mind to take breaks throughout the day and my challenges, because the challenges that I have are not the same as you or anyone else faces, but they're mine and they're real. And so um again, my definition of success looks something like balance. And so how can I balance all these things that I truly do love? And those are my relationships, those are my comedy, that's my physical self, that's my cats, that's my stuff. Those are my things that I love and hold dear. And it's like, okay, all of this stuff will be gone someday. It will all be gone. So how can I help my dad?
Excuse me.
How can I chat with fellow comedians? How can I spend time with my cats in a way that is not this clutching, desperate attempt to find connection or meaning? And so how can I hold it in a way that is playful and authentic to myself? So I guess that's kind of the balance I'm trying to strike these days, and it's a challenge, but it's a worthwhile one. And
Yeah.
I'm happy
Sounds
to
like
explore.
you're on a noble journey.
We all are, aren't we? Aren't we
No,
all?
just you.
It's just me.
Just you and your cats versus the world.
Me and my noble steeds.
Uh-huh. Well, you were telling me in Eureka about you're doing stuff with like trading, helping comedians train and working on that. How's that going?
It's not going super forward. Like I'm doing daily 5-minute workout videos. So I have 5-minute workout videos that I'm figuring out what to do with. I have 40 of them made now.
Oh, wow.
And along with this podcast, and then I'm also got my personal trainer certification. So it's gone well in the sense that got the certification, super stoked. I think when we talked, I was still working on it. So I got that certification, been applying for jobs left and right because I want to work in the fitness industry. I want to help people on their fitness journeys. I think it's fun and exciting and I love it. And I know not everyone loves it. And I think that there could be a bit an injection of humor and lightness into those workouts. And so I want to help people on that path. So I'm taking the steps, and then in the past few weeks, I have felt like I've turned some corners. We've been turning some corners, got a couple more interviews, got a couple more bites, that kind of stuff. Talked with a few comedians. And like you, just kind of like enjoying the process. Like I have some ideas of what I'd like to do. You know, it's like, okay, I'd like to, yeah, be able to pay for a few more things. But at this point where I'm at feels like I'm moving in the right direction. And
It's great.
that, yeah, and it hasn't always been like that. That's a fairly recent adjustment. I think that's felt good so far. Thanks
Are
for
you doing?
asking.
Yeah, of course. Are you doing these like you said the 5-minute videos? Are those like YouTube stuff, or is it like like or were you?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. My 5-minute workouts are on YouTube, but they're through my Patreon. I put them on
Okay.
Patreon to start, but I think what I'm going to start doing is releasing 1 or 2 a week, kind of a deal for free, and to get it out there, to get the word out there, and then chopping them up into, they're 5 to 7 minutes, but then I chop to a 30 to 60 second clip for TikTok and Instagram and that kind of stuff. Try to get on one of those posting schedule deals, and I just kind of have to navigate how that feels. It's tricky and thorny and weird, but you kind of got to do it at some point.
Well, you have the sounds like you have the infrastructure kind of set up for with all the content that you've collected and created and these other elements. I think you're enjoy the process of all the things that you've already done, and savor the accomplishment of having got to this point. But I think once you have all those things in place, it's like then it's much easier to feed people when you have the food to feed them with, and I think you've done the proper thing to cultivate all of that, which is great.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd love to feed the people.
Feed the people. Do you have is there Nextdoor up there? Is Nextdoor an app or a thing, reality where you're at?
I think it is. I don't use it. What is Nextdoor?
I mean, it's a app that I sometimes use to like advertise for shows and stuff, but it's kind of like a zip coded hyper local app that's kind of like functions slightly as Facebook Marketplace, but people put their services on there, and it works for especially a radius that you're in, where if there were services that you were wanting to provide, because you can have a business and or a personal account, and you can so you can put things out there like, hey, I'm looking for a plumber, or I'm a plumber. So it goes in both directions.
Gotcha.
On it. So I think it's kind of useful, but the people are also like, here's my Ring doorbell of a bear that's coming up to our thing, or homeless. It's all at the full spectrum of experiences, but people's goods and services are also, I think, welcome there.
Yeah, I love that. I've heard it for years, but I'll look into it more. It's one of those things that's like, okay, how many spots in my head, how many parking places in my noggin do I have for all this different stuff I got to do? And it doesn't always feel like there's enough room. So it's like I like to or when other people try to load stuff in there, and either it kind of like goes in and wiggles its way around, or it doesn't. That's great. Oh, Ben, it's been so nice to chat and to catch up with you. I've always appreciated you, and I'm glad that we still can stay connected after all these years.
Yeah, this is really nice. I really value it.
Yeah, super cool.
Sure.
I kind of all of your bits just stuck with me so hard from your time in Korea. Like, you are one of those performers that just like sticks with somebody. I think over the years you did so much cool stuff with technology. You had a conversation with your phone. You had live conversations with your mom. You played real improvised songs and bits, and you were just such a delight to have as a performer in Korea. So I just want to let you know that I really enjoyed it so much, and I was so glad that I was able to see you live and when you were, thriving at your comedy-est, it felt like.
When I could still get it up.
Yeah.
Now I have to wear a codpiece.
Yeah. I remember Turgid Ben. Those were the days.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. That's nice.
Yeah, for sure, man. And thank you once again. I'd love to make it through Denver, through Colorado sometime, and I would love to have you around here sometime as well if you ever want to see a cool part of the country. I don't know how much time you spend in Oregon, but we'd love to have you around.
I've only been to Portland essentially in Oregon, so yeah.
I think you'd get a kick out of Eugene. I'm going to be a part of the country fair this year, Oregon Country Fair, and I'd love to maybe talk with you about that a little more after the pod.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm stoked that we got to connect, and I really thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Right on. Well, until next time. Yeah, keep it greasy, my friend.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. With Rudy Tybersi.
I didn't have any expectations when I was doing it, so I wasn't, anything that happened didn't feel dire, or any success that I had didn't feel like, yeah, I'm on the right track. It just felt kind of like, oh, I'm a skateboarder and I like to skateboard, and sometimes I fall down and I bruise myself, and sometimes I land a trick, but either way I get to hang out with my friends and fuck around, and that just being in that space was really liberating.
And I know you want a tomato up there.